Mr. and Mrs. North and South American, all ships at sea, let's go to...
The Bitchspot Report. Welcome to the Bitchspot Report, the conservative atheist podcast that's not afraid to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Every week, your hosts, Cephas and Mike, will take on the latest religious and political news and examine the world around us from a distinctly conservative and skeptical perspective. Join us now for this episode of the Bitchspot Report. The crazy train is pulling into the station, and this week on the Bitchspot Report podcast, we're going to examine a new study that shows religious children have a hard time telling the difference between fact and fiction. A Minnesota Republican thinks sperm enzymes cause AIDS. Obama is getting ready to put almost 80% of Americans in prison over their religious beliefs. God forgives sex crimes even when the criminal molests another kid. Americans don't agree with Jesus. And Ken Ham. Just Ken Ham. It's another all-news show for episode 72, so let's go right to it. Yeah. How we doing?
Pretty good. It's been a weird few days.
You always have some weird days. What is that?
I don't know. Well, I've been following the libertarian thing in Springfield, and they seem to be doing all right. I haven't heard from Jim Gobel from the side project, how they're doing down there, but it sounds like they're doing all right. Sounds like they're going to get on the ballot. But then there's been this Detroit water thing, and I'm reading stuff on it. I mean, being in Detroit, that's about everything you see on the news. Between the auto recall for GM, I guess Chrysler has a similar problem, though it's not the same company part that was bad. Anything automotive news, and then the Detroit water shutoff thing. And the stuff I'm seeing on TV, it's so confusing. I mean, I don't think anybody really knows what the hell's going on. And that's been the big thing. Apparently, about 175,000 water customers in Detroit haven't paid their bills. And those 127,000 owes $90 million to the water company.
Well, that's easy enough. Shut them off. Well,
that's what they're doing. And apparently there's been the UN has even said that Detroit is, water's a right.
No, it's not. Okay, fine. Water's a right. Go down to the fucking river with a bucket and get yourself some water. You don't have a right to have somebody pump it to your house and then not pay them for it. You're paying for a service. You're not paying for the water.
Right. Yeah, kind of going more into the story though. Well, one, a lot of these customers are actually absentee landlords. These are guys that skipped out on their property and just decide not to pay anything. I mean, they haven't paid property taxes. They haven't paid anything. I mean, these are just, those scumbags who, for whatever reason, and, they let the property go into foreclosure, get seized by whoever, the banks, whatever. The banks won't pay, whatever the deal is. And then on top of it, then those who are legitimate, water users, apparently there's programs in Detroit where you can keep the water turned on. You pay a minimum amount until you can afford to pay off your bill, because we're talking bills that are as low as $150 past due.
Yeah.
That they're shutting off on. So they're saying, hey, just come down to the water company, or imagine they can do it online or whatever they can do to say, hey, I'm having financial trouble. Keep my water on. I'll pay $20 a month. And, that doesn't seem to click with some people. It's like this terrible city of Detroit. I don't know who really runs the water company here. I don't know if it's a municipal owned or if it's a privately owned company.
Doesn't really matter.
But apparently this is mixed up in the bankruptcy too. I think the courts are ordering the water company to get this money in. So there's like this whole ugly mess. And like I said, it's so confusing because people are saying, oh, woe's me. I can't pay. They come up with all these excuses. There's programs available that they can get their water turned back on. They've done moratoriums. I guess right now they're in a 10-day waiting thing so that more people can get in and get on these programs. But like the city of Windsor is sending a truckload of water to Detroit. I just heard that on the news coming back to the hotel. It's like, this is nuts.
Yeah, well, it's more of the liberal bullshit. We want everything for free. We don't have to pay for anything because it's our right to just have it. No, it's not. Sorry. Shit don't work that way. when you moved into that house or whatever, whenever you set up your account with whoever the water department is, you signed a goddamn contract that said you were going to pay for the water that you use. If you don't pay, you don't get water. It's that simple. I don't feel that sorry for these people, especially because, as you said, there's all kinds of programs. It's not just in Detroit. It's all over the place where they have all kinds of programs for low-income people or people who have no money where they can pay a little bit of money a month. And let's face it, if they can stay in their damn house, they can afford a little bit of money. But then again, I bet you these people aren't paying their mortgages either. These people think that they just get shit for free, and they don't. That's not how it works.
Yeah. Right. For me, it's been the social justice warriors who totally ignore the fact that, I don't know, I mean, we're talking 20% of the population in Detroit who can't afford their water bill. It's pretty sad, but Detroit's a fucked up city. I mean,
oh, sure.
I mean, it's a totally screwed up city and who knows, I mean, I won't totally, absolve the water company on this one because they could, honestly, they probably cheated a little bit on their end too, for all I know. I mean, that's how the city works, pay to play type of thing. What I've been seeing on the news are these old black ladies who are complaining that, that their water's being shut off. And
then pay your bill. It's that easy.
The social justice warriors have latched on to this and, they're taking it to the nth degree. I mean, they're not even acknowledging the fact that these people can get on programs. There's, the city is more than willing to work with these people. They won't tell you that. And really the real problem with this water deal is the fact that there's these absentee landlords who just won't pay at all. That's really the problem. And they should be going after those guys and make them pay the fines and stuff like that. And I don't know what the deal is with that. There's abandoned houses all over the place and they've left the water on and people are breaking in and they're turning the water on and they're turning the electricity on. They're literally, rigging up the electricity so they can set up a crack house and do their thing. And when they're done with it, they burn the house down, type of stuff. That's how it works here in Detroit, I guess.
Well, that's because the police aren't there actually doing anything. Right. But the whole thing is, I don't really give a crap who's doing what wrong. I really don't, alright? If the water department is doing something wrong and being corrupt, that really doesn't make a damn bit of difference to these people who are saying, I want my water and I'm not going to pay you for it, alright? Yeah. Just because one guy is doing something wrong, that's not a license for everybody to do something wrong. Yeah. That's not the way it works. If they're doing it wrong, fine, go after them. Punish them for whatever they're doing wrong. But you don't get the right to go do something wrong just because somebody else is doing. I don't buy that shit at all.
Yeah. So it's been this, ongoing thing. And I see it every day. I mean, I'm sure when you get outside of Detroit, there might be the one story on the national news, or that little blurb, like they put way at the end. Oh, and Detroit's having a water, whatever. And, somebody's petitioned the UN to intervene. I'm like, oh my God, what are you people doing?
Why bother? The UN has no fucking power. The UN has nothing to do with Detroit. Yeah. The UN can sit and spin, They are fucking useless. They can make all the goddamn recommendations they want to. They have no legal political power at all. Yeah. They can make any pronouncement they want. Fuck the UN.
Right. That's probably all that's going to happen. They'll say, yeah, Detroit, you should, it's a basic human right to have water, stop the shut-offs. Boom, that's it. And the city of Detroit gives them the middle finger and say, fuck you, we want our money. What can they do?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
And I don't think anybody really gets the concept. I don't know. It's just, like I said, it's like you watch this play out and I'm like, what the hell am I looking at here? And then it comes down to it. I mean, we'll get into the stories and I'll be doing the same thing. And, I'll be going, what's the logic? What is the reason? What is going on here? What is really going on here? Are these people really that stupid or are they really smart?
No, they're really that stupid.
You just kind of have to wonder, cause
liberals are that stupid. They don't understand the basics of economics. I mean, seriously, let's be really honest here, okay? I'm going to do this really slow for you liberals out there. All right, guys, the people who work at the water department, they need to get paid. The only way they get paid is if people who are getting water pay their bills. If they don't pay their bills, the people who are working there, they don't get paid. They don't eat. Figure that shit out. That's the way it works. If these other people who can't afford their water, if they want to have a better life, they should get off their asses and go get fucking jobs. Or they should get the hell out of Detroit, which I think is probably the best thing. Just everybody leave, burn the city down, be done with it. It's that bad.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's crazy. Like I said, I'm bombarded with this story every day. Every morning, there's something about the water company or the bankruptcy. The bankruptcy, apparently it's getting close. The lawyers are finally, I think they're finally trying to wrap up. I don't know really what's going to shake out here. It sounds like the creditors probably are going to get screwed pretty bad. Oh well.
Well,
that's when you bankrupt a major city. I guess that's what's going to happen.
That's what bankruptcy is. It's screwing the creditors. That's the whole point of having a bankruptcy.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's a person or a city, the creditors get screwed.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we have a system in the U.S. where people give out way the hell too much credit, and that's true of people or cities. And, they run up their credit cards, and they can't pay them back. And the credit card companies get fucked. So I wish they would just stop doing it, but that's the way it is right now, I guess.
Yeah. It's America. Love it or leave it, right?
Yeah. Wish there was a better place to go, but unfortunately there isn't.
I don't know. I'm at a loss on that one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as you mentioned before about Jim, we were on his show this past weekend, and I don't know when it's going to actually go up. I checked last night or this morning, and it still hadn't gone up. I'm going to go ahead and put a link to the show notes, to the show whenever it happens to go up. I don't get people who take a week or more to put up a show. We get a show done in a day.
Yeah.
We record it, edit, everything, scheduled, finished, online within 36 hours tops. Yeah. Only because some of us have to sleep.
Right. I mean, we record on Wednesday, you edit Thursday, it's on the website Friday.
Yeah, well, we late afternoon Wednesday, and it's up first thing in the morning on Friday, so.
Yeah. And I try to do the same thing. I kind of switched to the weekends I'm home to put my podcast up, so it'll be going up next week on Saturday. On top of it, the Reverend Skeptics, I mean, we've got the live YouTube part, so you can see it, if you want to check it out. But we do create a podcast, but we got a guy who he's trying to edit 6 people sometimes at one time. That's a tough chore. I try to do 4, and it takes a while. Plus you're trying to edit a 1 hour, sometimes you go an hour and a half show. That gets kind of nasty, but.
To be honest, I've never had a problem. We've done 3-4 people on this show, never had a problem. I sync everything up, and as long as it's synced, it takes no longer to edit. I could have 100 people. It would take no longer to edit than if it was just us.
Right.
Because you're just doing one stream. Once you sync all the different streams together, you don't go out and edit the different streams separately, and if they're doing it that way, they're crazy. That's wrong.
Yeah.
You sync everything together, you get one stereo stream, and you just listen to it, and you cut out all the shit you don't want. And, you come up with something that sounds like a podcast, and you put it up.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know why it takes Mike so long but it takes him about a month or so to get them together, so it's, as long as I don't have to do it. I mean,
yeah.
I'm happy.
Yeah. Doing one show is enough.
Yeah. I have done a couple for the Reverend Skeptics, and, but Mike's got them all and all that kind of stuff, and I don't know, but he has a life too, so apparently, of course I guess he's out of a job, so, he might have some extra time. I wonder, hint, hint, wink, wink, if Mike's listening. you got some extra time to work on that thing, buddy.
Yeah, well, I mean, I got a life too, but I still manage to get it done every single week.
Yeah. It comes down to organization and stuff like that. I mean, when I do things, I get my script together, whatever notes, stuff like that. I'll sit down, I'll record, and I just record straight through. I'll set it aside. I'll do little sections. I mean, I'll do the main section, and I'll do the announcements. And I try to do that closer to the release time, so I'm a little bit more close to real time. So if anything happened over the past 2 weeks, I can incorporate it. I slap them together. I put my intro, outro, and my break music, and boom, out she goes.
Yep.
And you do that, and you stick to that schedule. You'll always hit it, unless you have a computer meltdown or something like that, or something family comes up. Then you get behind, but you got your schedule. When you got to get things done at what time. It's real easy to handle.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, speaking of some of that, we've talked about this in the past, and I've been trying to come up with some new music for the show because I'm really, really tired of having all the multiple themes. And honestly, every week when I start doing the show, I sit down and I try to figure out which theme I'm the least sick of every week. Because, I mean, really, honestly, it was cute at the beginning. I don't think it's as cute anymore, and I'd really rather just have one really nice opening theme and one really nice ending theme. And then I want to go ahead and replace some of the other ones that we do. I've got a couple of ideas for a new main theme. Haven't made a decision. I want something to kind of be like an upbeat rock kind of thing, but I'm still kind of poking around. I also am going to change the news intro because I don't like the way that's been going. That's been kind of like a hodgepodge for the last couple of months, and I don't like that one. But I think I've got one of those, and if I get it finished, I'll probably have it in this show so people can listen to it. I want the main event to stay the same. I like that one. It works. But if anybody has any ideas on new themes, I may try a couple of new things in the next couple of weeks. It depends on how much time I have. But I really want to get just one thing that's kind of indicative of the show and just stick with that. All these cutesy little openings that we've been doing. I don't really think that's really where the show's going anymore. So if anybody has any ideas, let me know. Cause I just go out and look and it's like, I don't know. There's a lot of things I don't like. I've got a couple that I do. I don't know what I'm going to do with any of it. I really don't. And if you have any ideas, you let me know too.
Oh, sure. Right now I can't think.
That's all right.
It's been one of like I said, I'm filling my head with Detroit and, trying to get my show together, all that stuff. So, who knows?
Yep.
Maybe I'll relax this week and come up with something like it.
Yeah, well, I just want to get something done sooner more than later. I've been kind of putting it off, and I'll go out and I'll spend an hour or two looking around, and I'll get some ideas, and then I just won't do anything with it because I got too much else to do.
Yeah.
But anyway, we should get on with the news.
Yep.
And now the news.
It should come as no surprise, but a new study shows that children that have been exposed to religion also have a very hard time distinguishing fact from fiction. In a study published in the journal Cognitive Science, 5- and 6-year-old children were presented with stories, religious, fantastic, and realistic, and children from religious homes had a much harder time understanding which stories had magical elements from those which had realistic elements. Non-religious children had a very easy time telling which stories were real and which were nonsense. And they say religious belief causes no harm. Bullshit.
Clearly, I mean, this whole article is what harm religion is doing to kids. You can't tell the difference between real and fiction. When you get into the real world, if you can't tell that, what is it? The video game, what's the video game where you shoot hookers and, damn it, I just had a brain.
What, like GTA?
Yeah, Grand Theft Auto. If you can't tell the real and fantasy, and if you think, Grand Theft Auto is reality, you're fucked.
Yeah. Well, I think it's funny because this study completely throws out the notion that children are born believing. And we hear that from Christians all the time that, everybody's born believing in God. Everybody knows there's a God. Everybody knows that this stuff's real. Bullshit. That's something anybody half a clue has known forever, that children don't know a damn thing when they pop out of the womb. They've got these rudimentary instincts, but that's it, Everything else is programmed via indoctrination after birth by the parents and by society. There's no religious crap that just fills your head from birth. And these people need to get the fuck over that.
Definitely. I mean, the child's mind is an empty slate, and they're going to try to mimic the parents. They're bonding and they're trying to gain their parents' favor, and it's all learned. I mean, there's a few instincts when they're real young, crying, I'm hungry type, that type of stuff, those basic survival things that you're born with. But as far as social positions, social structures, things like that are learned from how your parents act and what your parents want you to learn. And if you're teaching them fantasy, they're going to think the world is fantasy, and if you show them, the world is real, they're going to gravitate toward that. I think there's some predisposition to, believing in, gods and things like that. It's very much more of a reinforcement. You have this inkling, and if you associate with people who believe a certain way, you're going to gravitate toward that belief. And next thing you know, you're handling snakes, or you're believing all sorts of crazy shit. Planet's 6,000 years old, and Jesus rode on dinosaurs.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, I've talked before about, people who hold religious beliefs are much more likely to accept other forms of non-religious woo, such as alien abductions, Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, and of course your favorite conspiracy theories. Yeah. In fact, if you pay attention to conspiracy theorists, the overwhelming majority of them are very religious. There's a reason for that. Believing in gods cuts down on the cognitive functions and reduces the likelihood of critically evaluating one's belief systems. You should see this all the time. Most of the people that you talk about on this show, that Abraham guy and all the rest of this, these are people who believe really crazy conspiracy shit, and they're fundamentalist fucktards.
Exactly. Alex Jones, even though he hides it somewhat, you can catch the religion. I mean, in his show, he tries to stay somewhat neutral, but you know what? You get a guy when he was talking with Joshua Abraham, it's there. All of a sudden, he started doing I was waiting for Alex Jones to start saying "Praise the Lord," hallelujah types, because he was agreeing, and he's going exactly this atheist or this. I think a lot of times they like to materialists, are trying to take over the world, and I see that with there's. I've seen that with David Icke. I've seen it with, there's this Jordan Maxwell. I kind of talked about him a little bit. He's a real nutcase, believes that, he's got these connections between Egypt and Jesus and Sirius, Osiris and all, and definitely he talks a lot about God's law, a lot of God's law stuff. He does a lot of the sovereign citizen stuff, I've yet to see any real atheists. Even Joshua Abraham even admits that he says he was an atheist, and then he read the Bible and, changed, and he turns into a raving nutcase. So, definitely, you start believing in, these mythical beings, you'll believe anything.
Oh, sure. And this is, as we said before, this is demonstrable harm done by religion to a believer's cognitive skills. This is proof positive that believers are much more likely to lack critical thinking skills and the ability to think intelligently and rationally about the world around them. And unfortunately, I think this leads to theists being less able to consider the faults of their own religion. Debates and discussions between theists and atheists, I think they're much less likely to get through their religious biases because they're simply unaware that rational thought is even valuable or necessary. These people can't even conceive that the religious beliefs that they hold could be wrong. And the same is true of these conspiracy theories and all these other crazy woo beliefs. They don't understand that you actually have to think about these things and figure out if these are actually true. All they care about is, hey, does this make me feel good or not?
Yeah. Actually, there's this guy, Daniel J. Lewis. He does a podcast about doing podcasting, and he does have this Christian movie reviews. And he tries to use, and I'm air quoting here, critical thinking, taking a Christian view on movies. And I'm like, I think you're kind of deluded that you're not doing critical thinking. God is automatic for him. He does these reviews based on Christian, beliefs and so on. And I listened to it because I was curious what a Christian thought was critical thinking. And it really isn't. It's just critical thinking to a Christian is, instead of having to look at the world, it's almost like keeping this God and reality separate. And you got to decide whether God exists. Well, in his world, God is automatically there. That's automatic. Then we build the world around that instead of trying to rationalize, well, does God really exist? is it really what I think he is? Or, whatever, even questioning God. There's no questioning,
Oh, sure. Well, I've seen people who are just like that, who try to think everything, well, I'm going to look at this from a Christian perspective, and I'm going to be rational and critical. But they're rational and critical of everything except their beliefs. They won't question whether God is there or whether Jesus said X, Y, or Z or whether their beliefs are true. That's completely off the table. They can't even think about that. Then they just take this and their beliefs are absolute gospel truths. Sorry for the pun there. That everything has to match up with their beliefs. They're not willing to consider whether or not their beliefs are actually true to begin with.
Exactly. That explains everything nicely. I think this is really probably a demonstration of really where the problem is. Do you believe in reality or fantasy? How does belief in a spiritual being influences that? And I think this is a very excellent study, very important one, and hopefully somebody on the other side reads this and go, maybe my head's all full of bullshit.
They won't. And that's the problem, is that we've known that there are problems. I'm sure we could have predicted that study would say what the study says long before the study was ever done, because it was pretty clear. The problem is, how do we solve it? How do we fix the problem? Because you have people who are completely unwilling and unable to question their beliefs. They don't care if it's true. And there's nothing you can do that's going to make them care if it's true.
Yeah. Hate to be them.
Well, yeah. I hate to live in the same world with them. They screw it up for everybody.
Yeah.
We're going to do more stories like this next one. That's more of these people.
Yeah. Why is it Minnesota?
I don't know.
I used to think California, it was the land of fruits and nuts, Maybe they've all moved to Minnesota. I don't know.
I have no idea, but let's go ahead and get to that story then.
My name is Mike Fry, and I speak as a concerned Minnesotan and father and a husband. And the thing about same-sex marriage is that people who marry do have sex. And when same-sex people are married, they do have sex. There's something called sodomy. Sodomy, defined in Minnesota, is sex by or with the mouth or through the anus. When there's ejaculation into a vagina, there's a barrier there, as in your packet it states there, of a cellular tissue that doesn't allow the sperm, that has an enzyme at the head of it, to penetrate the blood flow. It is designed to go to the egg. That enzyme is designed to burn the outside membrane of the egg cell, go inside the egg, and then deposit the DNA. We call that conception. When ejaculation occurs inside of a colon, it's highly absorbent material. The cells do not have a barrier for the sperm and those enzymes to enter into the blood flow. When the enzymes enter into the blood flow and a continued prolonged environment to that happens, these enzymes in the blood flow, it causes what we know as AIDS, acquired immune deficiency syndrome. And AIDS, of course, brings on common diseases, colds, and things, and it magnifies them to a point where it's unhealthy.
Yes, Minnesota Republican bases economic agenda on the theory that sperm enzymes in the anus causes AIDS. A Republican candidate for the Minnesota House of Representatives repeated a false theory this week that AIDS is caused by sperm enzymes entering the anus of another male. Bob Fry, who cites his work in helping Representative Michelle Bachmann to defeat a Profiles in Learning education program as a major accomplishment, told the Minnesota Post, I think it's MinPost, that his opposition to the gay agenda was about the financial impact of that agenda. It's more about sodomy than about pigeonholing a lifestyle, he explains. When you have an egg and a sperm that meets in conception, there's an enzyme in front of that burns through the egg. The enzyme burns through so the DNA can enter the egg. But Fry said it was a different story when the sperm is deposited anally because it's the enzyme that causes the immune system to fail. That's why the term is AIDS, acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, he opined. When I saw this, I go, okay, here's an opportunity for a dick joke.
Yeah, well.
And it's apparently this guy. Yeah, what is it about these people who, this is pretty graphic. I'm kind of wondering what his fascination with male anus. Maybe he wants to crawl up one, cause he is.
Maybe he is up one.
But, and what is it with Minnesota? And, I mean, Michelle Bachmann, oh my God, this is like, what is going on? But it's like, there's just so much stupid here.
Of course it is.
And then, here I'm going to say it, what are these people thinking? I know they're not, but, these are people running for office. What are they thinking? Are they just, they're pandering to their constituents? They know that they say this goofy stuff that it'll get them votes or it puts down their opponents. I'm trying to find logic here that I know there isn't any, but, it's, what is this? What is this about? I've heard crazy stories. I remember a dental hygienist says that she says when 2 sperms hit causes AIDS. And I'm like, I got my, up with the hand to the forehead. It's like, you're a dental hygienist. You have a science background. I don't know what it takes to be a dental hygienist, but I'm sure there is some medical training involved. And that's not how it works,
Yeah.
And, is this guy trying to appeal to those type of people who just don't understand what's really going on? And, and then they happily, oh yeah, he's right. There's a gay agenda. They're trying to do all this. And, I don't know. It's just so mind numbing. When I saw this, when I saw this story, I was also going through the Detroit stuff and all this kind of stuff. And actually, I think I was planning for we were going to talk about, rape culture. And it's one of these where there's just so much stupid at one time hitting that, it's perfect for the show because, this is a guy's clearly an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
Why would anybody vote for this guy? Because he apparently knows nothing.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Yeah, it's clear Fry hasn't got the slightest clue what the hell he's talking about. He says a virus cannot be killed because it is not alive, and it doesn't matter who you are or what or who you like or love or anything else. Well, apparently this guy's never heard of antiviral drugs. Because apparently, yes, you can kill a virus. What a dumbass.
Yeah. There's a guy who's buying into the anti-vax stuff. There's, I'm assuming he's some kind of Christian.
Of course he is. Of course he is.
So it definitely all plays together, right in with our first thing. He lives in a fantasy world. He doesn't understand how the real world works, and he knows that there's people out there who don't either. And, he panders to them. He gets the votes. And, the stuff I've been hearing about the Republicans. And I'm kind of glad I'm getting into this libertarian thing in Illinois because when Jim was talking about on the show about, how they bust in all these people to, oversee the challenges, they filled it up with a bunch of college kids who had no clue. These are going to be the people who will probably be, having an effect on my retirement, wanting to take my pensions away. It's like, oh my God. We're screwed. We're truly screwed.
Yeah. Getting back to this, some people have got no clue about how basic medical science works, and they just don't give a shit. And this isn't new or unusual. There's lots and lots of Christians out there, and we do stories like this all the time, where these Christians, they're totally clueless about everything, but they're only too happy to just pontificate about things they don't have a clue about. And in fact, I think people like that in general are very like that. I listened to another podcast which has nothing to do with any of this, but a couple of weeks ago they were talking about the new show, The Last Ship, and I don't know if you've seen it. It's the Michael Bay produced thing.
Yeah, I've seen the ads for it, but I haven't really.
Okay, well anyway, it's a show about a virulent virus ravaging the planet and the crew of a Navy destroyer is trying to come up with a vaccine. And the people on this podcast were criticizing the show because they were going, well, if the virus was that widespread, then everybody in the show should always have to wear a containment suit, even if they're out in the middle of the ocean, thousands of miles from anybody, just because all the air on the planet would be contaminated. And I'm going, seriously, you don't know the first thing about basic virology. That's not how this shit works. What the fuck are you smoking? But you don't know a damn thing about it. That's not how shit works. You only have to wear a containment suit if you're in very close proximity to somebody who's got the virus. It's only good outside the body for a very, very short distance.
Yeah, even if the virus hasn't gone into aerosol, you could probably stand and touch the person, no problem.
Well, they say it's airborne. They say it's airborne. So yeah, if they exhale the virus, it will go 10, 20, 30 feet maybe. And then it's not gonna hurt you any and you can't inhale it.
Right.
But, it's like, what? You're 10,000 miles from anybody, but you still have to wear a containment suit because all the air is contaminated. All right, guys. No. Just no.
Yeah. I mean, I know we make mistakes, but that is something really simple, and that's really basic. I mean, that is some basic stuff that, if you follow any skeptical podcasts, you'll know how viruses work. I mean, I learned more about, how vaccines work, how viruses work. There's, Mark Crislip does this, Puscast. I mean, he goes into the gory details on how a virus will attack and, how it moves, the functions, how it functions. There's all these variables that as the virus moves along in a population, it might pick up this or lose that, and stuff like that. The information is there. And I know they're talking about a TV show, and I don't know if there was something in the show that said, that.
No. No. It was just basic ignorance of something that it's not even high school biology. It's something that, grade school biology. You should know this shit.
Yeah.
All right. This is stuff that you should know. It's like the people, I remember when the reactors in Fukushima, Japan, there were people who were going, oh, the entire planet's going to be irradiated. What the fuck are you smoking? The entire planet is not going to be irradiated. Jesus, you people are just dumb beyond belief.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand knee-jerk reaction, but then you get these guys, I think I talked about it, where Fukushima they're building a bomb for Iran, all sorts of crazy stuff. I'm like, you're not making sense. They keep making these assumptions. 3 Mile Island, Chernobyl, now we got Fukushima. And I think every one of those, there were all these, all the conspiracies and all the stuff that came out of those things. And yeah, all three were pretty bad. I mean, sounding like Fukushima may be the worst of all three. I don't know. The Chernobyl, you still can't go near the place. I don't know how they're dealing with Fukushima.
Oh, you can go near the place. It's not that hazardous. You wouldn't want to live there. You would pick up enough radiation by living there over a short amount of time, but you can drive right past the place right now. You can get in your car with no containment suit at all, and you can go driving right past Chernobyl. The guys from Top Gear did it, and they were just kind of going, well, we don't want to break down because we'll get too much exposure, but otherwise, fuck, we're just driving right by in our cars.
Yeah.
It's not that big a deal.
Yeah. I mean,
or at least it's not as big a deal as people make it out.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think you'd want to spend a week, camping right next to the reactors, but, you're probably pretty good driving by there. But, but still, it's like, it's agenda. I mean, there's people with these agendas. I mean, the Fukushima stuff seems, I think it's probably more driven by the anti-nuke agenda than anything. These guys on a podcast, I don't want to pick on them too much, but, they're probably maybe influenced by the anti-vax agenda and a lot of the false information that gets spewed out, and they're commenting on a fictional story. So I would actually cut them a whole lot of slack. They are giving out bad information, but
Well, no, I'm not cutting them slack, because their entire reason for not liking the show was because they weren't wearing containment suits all over the place. Their entire reason for not liking the show was just because of their complete ignorance of science.
Yeah. Then they're idiots.
Yeah, well, whatever. But if you look at a lot of this stuff, and you can go to Fukushima and do all this other stuff, people have the tendency to just string all kinds of stupid shit together and assume that it just all goes together. I mean, this Fry guy, he was against an anti-bullying measure because he assumed that people who are against bullying were pro-sodomy and the desire to spread AIDS. Where the fuck does that come from? How do these things go together? How do you get from point A to point B? You can't. It's just, Fukushima and being lactose intolerant and alien abductions and what the hell?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I mean, the one story, Israel was having Japan make nuclear bombs for Iran to use on North Korea. I don't know. And I'm like, where do they get this stuff? Where does this come from? I don't even see where the connections are, except there's people who don't like Israel. There's people who don't like Japan. There's people who don't like Iran. There's people who don't like North Korea. let's string them together and make a conspiracy out of it. Ugh.
Yeah, well, that's how a lot of conspiracy theorists work, is they just pick, it's like they throw all kinds of shit into a hat and they pull out 3 things and say, this is a conspiracy.
Yeah. The Mad Lib.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. All right, well, let's go ahead and move on. We're getting crazy. And pretty much all of the stories we've done today, and most of the stories we're going to do today, they're all very conspiracy connected.
Yes.
It's a bunch of people who are they're stringing weird shit together and stapling religion to it and going, hey, this all makes sense to me.
Yep.
Yeah. Here's another one.
I interviewed Rick for my book, and he told me something. We were standing just outside my office here at the Fox News corner of the world, and he said that he believed that religious liberty is going to be the civil rights issue of our generation. While he was at the Southern Baptist Convention, he said something else, and I think it's something that I actually predict in the book. Rick Warren said, in reference to religious liberty, and this was reported at the Christian Post, he said that he was going to do his best to make sure that we stay out of jail, talking about pastors. But there's one thing worse than going to jail. It is staying out of jail and losing the gospel. And that was something that Russ Moore of the Southern Baptist Convention said. And here's what Rick Warren said in response to that. Rick Warren said this: it may take some pastors going to jail. And then Rick Warren followed up that by saying, I'm in.
Well, I do think that it could very well come to that in our lifetime. A few years ago, I didn't think it would. Not this quickly, but as we have seen the aggressive nature of this administration and this president in his open hostility of this administration toward Orthodox faith, we've seen it in the HHS mandate. We have seen it in the numerous cases regarding marriage. And I think it's going to come down to that. We've got to choose whether or not we have a greater fear of man or a greater reverence for God. You can't have both. And I think it's going to play out very quickly in our day.
It's our old friend Tony Perkins again, and now he's afraid that Obama and his liberal stormtroopers are just days from putting Christians in jail for their beliefs. Perkins and Todd Starnes talked on an episode of Washington Watch that we could expect to see Christians rounded up and herded into prison, and religious idiots like Rick Warren and Russell Moore agree with him. Great. So now we got 4 religious wingnuts who agree with each other. I guess that must make it true.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, these people really are out of their minds. I'll do another example like that last ship one. I saw somebody in a debate forum very recently who was convinced that the world was turning against gay marriage by leaps and bounds because he said it was evil, and everybody, all the countries of the world, all the states, were turning down gay marriage. He seems to be completely unaware that so many states had recognized gay marriage in just the last couple of years, and so are most of the civilized nations on the planet. Yeah, it's like, dude, have you watched the goddamn news? He thinks that the whole world is exactly like the Middle East, where being gay is a crime and punished by imprisonment and death. Nothing I could say, including direct proof that he was completely wrong, meant anything to this guy. They don't care.
In this case, we've got a guy that is so delusional, he doesn't even know where reality begins. And, I don't know. I mean, I don't even know where to go with that one, because it's like, and with this story, that the story, again, this is the common story that, Obama's going to get the, what's that bunch? The Youth Army or whatever he was talking about. I mean, I remember, I don't know if that ever came together, but that Obama's going to get a citizen army together, and they're going to chuck all the Christians and the gun lovers and the 9/11 truthers and the, all these people into prison camps, because it's linked to the 1984. There was the scouts that they have in there. I forget what they called them, but Orwell called them. But anyhow, this whole idea about kids turn in all the evil Christians and the evil gun owners, and they're going to all have their rights taken away and sent to prison camps. And I'm like, the first thing is like, does these people even listen to themselves? Apparently not, because I mean,
no, of course not.
What kind of, the crap that comes out of their mouths. I mean, it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. I mean, I'd like to see these people go away, but not to a concentration camp. I mean, I'd like to see them go away and, maybe move to their, I don't know, move them to Israel. They seem to want to push that over the edge type, there's that bunch. I don't know.
I just want them to grow up. That's all I want.
Grow up, learn, be rational. That might be asking too much from some of these people because they're trapped in the delusion.
The problem is, and with this guy I was talking about, he has such an abject hatred for gay marriage. He hates the gays with every ounce of his being, and he is so utterly and completely convinced that God is going to miraculously make homosexuality vanish from the surface of the earth that he cannot conceive of even the remotest possibility that the rest of the planet doesn't agree with him. And that's really where these people completely fail, is in their assumption that anybody who doesn't agree wholeheartedly with their religious beliefs, especially their most extreme fanatical beliefs, that these must be the enemies of their religion and thus they must be out to get them. It's abject paranoia in the extreme. And that's exactly what these people are doing. These people are, oh no, these people don't agree with us and our crazy beliefs, therefore they're out to get us.
Yeah. Well, of course, they're the sane ones. We're the crazy people want to do it to them,
Yeah, but all the crazy people think that they're the sane ones.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't know where to even go beyond the fact that these guys are idiots. They don't know what they're talking about. And you know what? They get together. I mean, I don't want to make this sound like, because we get together, we talk about this, but I mean, these guys, they get into a circle jerk, they get each other off and, think they've done some good. It's like, dude, you just sound like a bunch of retards.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm sorry for those who are retarded because, these guys, are definitely beyond. I mean, I don't even want to, now I'm sounding bad, but these guys are beyond. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they're not drooling over themselves.
They might be. We don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, this is a topic we keep talking about. We talk about Tony Perkins and his craziness. We talk about Klingenschmitt and his craziness. And I don't see an end in sight. From gay marriage to contraception to education, these people just don't understand that anyone who disagrees with them doesn't necessarily make them goose-stepping Obama drones who are out to throw them in the ovens.
Yeah.
These people are really convinced that everybody wants to kill them to stop them from disseminating their absolutely true beliefs. And this is what happens when religion goes fanatical, as we've seen recently when most of the rational people give up on having faith. You got the crazy people who are just kind of going, blah, 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 and they think that makes everybody else wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can't go any further than that, because that's it. I mean, these guys they're certifiable. I mean, I don't know why they're not in, well, I know why they're not in a loony bin, but just certainly, it's just this, we know what the problem is. I mean, these guys they have this fanatical devotion to their religions where they can't escape. And it's really sad. I'd hate to live in their world,
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, we have, in our society, religion is one of the very few socially acceptable delusions. You can do anything in the name of religion. You can say anything. No matter how batshit insane what you are saying sounds, the second that you say, but it's my religious belief or it's my faith, lots of people go, oh, well, it's okay then. If you didn't say that, they'd say, fuck, man, where's the guys with the coats with the tie in the back? We need to get this person in a rubber room. But as soon as you say, oh, but it's my religion, oh, well, that's okay then. You just keep believing that stupid, crazy shit.
Yes.
But let's do some more stupid, crazy shit, because there's never an end to it.
Yeah, and actually probably going along the lines of the same thing.
The New Gospel Outreach Church is dealing with a nightmare.
It is horrible. Allegations. I was shocked.
Their pastor, Roy Yoakum, is charged with sexually assaulting a 14-year-old boy inside the church office and at the pastor's home in Gallatin.
I'm going to let the law enforcement and the court system decide that. Personally or officially, I'm not in a position to judge anyone.
Police say Yoakum, a registered sex offender, should never have been placed in a position of trust or given access to children.
Regardless of whether or not the church trusted him or believed him, his status as a sex offender restricted him from having access to children. So he was in violation of the sex offender registry anyway.
Church members say Yoakum told them he pled guilty to second-degree sexual abuse of an 8-year-old boy in 2003, but claimed the allegations were false. They checked with authorities before appointing him pastor 3 years ago.
The Kentucky State Police was contacted. The Kentucky Attorney General's office was contacted, about the legality, and the troopers over at the Bowling Green Post said that they contacted the sex offenders branch, and they said there's nothing illegal about it.
Yoakum is facing statutory rape charges in Kentucky and Tennessee, but the interim pastor says he's still not ready to pass judgment.
I'm going to let the law enforcement and the court system decide that. Personally or officially, I'm not in a position to judge anyone.
Kentucky boy raped by pastor church had hired because God forgave past sex crimes from the police. This is from July 9th. Officials at a Kentucky church said this week that they knew their pastor was a registered violent sex offender when they hired him. Now he's facing more charges for repeatedly raping a 14-year-old member of the congregation. Okay. Well, where do these people mess up? Pastor raping a kid, okay, that's normal, right?
Pretty much.
And of course they hire the guy knowing that he was a violent sex offender. What's wrong with that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, here we go again. The religious are just trying to cover their asses after yet another pedophile clergy member screws a young boy. And we're supposed to be surprised about this.
Yeah. I mean, of course, see, God forgives.
Yeah.
All you gotta do is, I know as Catholics, we went into the confessional, we confess our sins, a few Hail Marys, and you're back on the street. It's like all the sins forgiven. As long as you confess and you truly believe and all that kind of stuff, all those sins are forgiven. So, you commit a sin, a crime, whatever, God forgives, So, I wish the world really worked like that. So, I mean, I can go out and I can go, I don't know, find somebody, I'll just shoot them. Boom, boom. I run over to church, confess my sins. I'm good.
Yeah. Well, I think it was funny because the church was going, hey, we're in no position to judge. Well, luckily, the courts are in a position to judge people, and they ought to not only put this dude away for a long, long, long time, but they ought to put away the administration of the church as well, because they admit they knew he was a registered sex offender, and it didn't matter what it says in their stupid book. They're accountable to the public. And I hope this boy's family sues the church into the ground. There's no conceivable defense for this.
Definitely. I mean, when I found this story, one of the things that flashed through my mind was, I like the movie, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And there's that scene where, Del Mar and, what's his name? The two characters, they find a revival. There's a baptism. They go and they get baptized. All the sins are forgiven. And Everett says, you may be straight with the Lord, but the state of Mississippi is a little bit more tougher, a little bit more hard-nosed. It's like, don't these people understand that? Apparently not. Why would anybody make the decision? And knowing with what the Catholics are going through with their pedophile priests and all the stories, I think the majority of the stories seem to be the Catholics, but there's other denominations and other groups that are, doing this kind of stuff. Knowing with that and what these places are going through, why would they even consider hiring this guy? I'd hate to be a person on the jury on that civil court trial, because I'd be in that jury room and I will not leave until this guy gets convicted, because this was totally based on the story. I mean, I probably should say based on the story. This guy should never have gotten that job. He should never have been allowed near children. He shouldn't even have been allowed on the property.
Yeah, aren't there laws against that?
I would think so. I mean, I don't know how laws work in other states, but I believe Illinois, if you're a registered sex offender, you can't come near children. You can't even go near your own children.
Yeah, well, I mean, here it's, you cannot live or work within 2,000 feet of a school or a park. So a third of a mile. because there's children there. Well, there's sure as hell children at churches. That's how this boy got screwed. And I think it's absolutely horrific that the church officials or the church administration, they knew about it. But I'm willing to bet you they didn't tell the parishioners that he was a sex offender, because if they did, he would never have gotten time alone with this kid.
Definitely.
So, class action lawsuit.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this church needs to burn, and not literally, but figuratively. They need to shut it down. I mean, literally. Just.
Oh, I'm cool with them burning it down. That would be entirely fine. Put something useful there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get on to something that isn't conspiracy theory related. God, we had to have one. I guess I'm doing a lot of studies today. YouGov, a nonpartisan polling group, has asked Americans to weigh in on some of the most important social issues of today and how they think Jesus would respond. And apparently, Americans are much more liberal than they think Jesus would be. Whereas most Americans favor gay marriage, most thought Jesus would be against it. They also think Jesus would be against abortion, against the death penalty, against high taxes for the wealthy, and against stricter gun laws. But Jesus would be in favor of universal health care and reducing carbon emissions. Where do these people get these crazy ideas? I'll never know.
I don't know. Personally, I would think Jesus would be, if he, asked him this question, he'd be going, "Help me, get me out of here."
Well, I love they're going, Jesus is for reducing carbon emissions. Well, like, Jesus can't just fix things. I mean, isn't he omnipotent?
I would think. I mean, wave of the hand, the carbon problems go away. I mean, if he was really for or against any of these things, wave of the hand and it's dealt with. But, well, of course we're not praying the proper way. You're not praying the right way to get Jesus to do this stuff. So that's the problem. We got to keep praying and, saying hallelujah and, handle snakes and diddle little boys to, get Jesus to do stuff for us.
Yeah, I mean, how do these people even know what Jesus would want? I mean, for all we know, if Jesus came back, he'd be having a gay orgy. There's no way to know. And seriously, who comes up with some of these polls? I mean...
What? Yeah, I mean, you'll see the polls on, Fox News, the Fox websites and stuff like that. I'm like, and you look at the questions and you're like, I don't want to answer those.
Well, I mean,
because I know that they're totally meaningless. These online polls, I'm kind of railing against those on websites because, especially Fox, because that's actually a tool they use to tell if a story is worth continuing on. When the Obama birth certificate thing was breaking, after they did that morning show that they do and talked about it, they put a poll on the website and see what the reaction was. And if enough of their listeners say that they believe it, then they went and they told O'Reilly, they told all the other commentators, give me stories on the Obama birth certificate thing. That was actually a way that they can tell that the story rang true with enough of their listeners to create more stories to get more people to watch. Who cares what Jesus thinks? Why is this important other than maybe to Christians and maybe get an idea what few brain cells they have when they fire together when you pose this question, what it comes up with? That's probably about the only thing this is worth because Jesus wouldn't have no clue to what carbon emissions or any, gay marriage. I don't know how popular homosexuality was in Judea at the time, but it's,
it was pretty damn popular in Greece at the time.
True. But,
well, the thing is how the fuck would they even know what Jesus would think? That's like asking, what does Bigfoot think about global warming or what do aliens think about illegal immigration? It's just an excuse for asking people to put their own opinions in somebody else's mouth. Ask people what they think. Yeah. Don't ask them what they think other people think. That's stupid. Who cares what they think what other people think?
Maybe the only value, I think, might be how people might think what if you're talking about Christians, might be look at a reflection of what they think their deity is saying. That's about the only value I can see to this, but to try to get into their deity's head to think what they're thinking. I don't see any value to it. I mean, there's no value whatsoever. There's no reason. I think it's just a waste of whoever paid for this thing. You just wasted a whole shitload of money for no reason.
Yeah, but the thing is, they prove that they don't give a shit what Jesus thinks.
Yeah.
They don't care what God thinks. They're going to do whatever the hell they want to do. Because most of these people, they favor gay marriage. But they think Jesus is against it. So they're essentially flipping God the bird and going, fuck you, dude. We're going to do what we want. We know you're against it, or believe you're against it, or whatever. But screw you. And isn't that the same thing American Catholics have been doing in the Vatican for years?
Yeah.
Fuck you guys. We don't care what you say. We're doing our own thing.
Exactly.
All right, well, you want to finish up the last story?
Yes. Our buddy, Ken Ham. We should stop exploring space because the Bible says aliens would go to hell. Where was that in the Bible again? Was it in Genesis or maybe Exodus? Blessed are the Andromedans. They will inherit the underworld, or I don't know. Where does he get this? I mean, I'm sure it has to do with science. His total opposition to anything scientific. I mean, he pretends to be scientific. He's got his pretend scientists doing pretend science, trying to support the pretend intelligent design or pretend creation science stuff. So we gotta get rid of the real science so he can get more money to support his make-believe science. That's gotta be it.
Well, I mean, the thing is, Ken Ham says that there are no aliens. But if there were, they'd be going to hell. Well, alright, first off, apparently Ken never read Ezekiel 1:4-28, which is where a lot of UFO conspiracy people, get that wheel within wheel UFO thing.
Yeah.
Right. So he apparently hasn't read his Bible, which is no surprise because he's never read a science book in his life.
I don't think he can read, to be honest.
But probably not. He's not that bright. He's got something wrong with him because nobody in their right mind would look like he does. Dude, that's not how facial hair works. I'm sorry. What else would we do with Ken Ham? Gotta have somebody to laugh at on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
But the other thing, and I was just thinking about some of this really quick because apparently somebody has to because Ken Ham can't. But I could very easily, and this took me about 3 minutes, I could explain my way around anything that Ken Ham says. Because his position was, and he says, quote, the Bible makes it clear that Adam's sin affected the whole universe. This means that any aliens would also be affected by Adam's sin, but because they are not Adam's descendants, they can't have salvation. Okay, first off, nowhere in the Bible does it say that Adam's sin affected the whole universe because the ancient Jews had no concept of anything beyond the earth. As far as they were concerned, all the stars in the sky were just lights hung on the inside of a dome over a flat plane of the earth. Ken Ham, as usual, just makes shit up because it's convenient. But let's assume for a moment that he's right. If you read the Bible, we just don't know where all the extra people in Genesis came from. The Bible never makes it clear. It's assumed that Adam and Eve just fucked up a storm and had a bunch of kids that were never mentioned. Genesis 4:16 says that Cain, after he killed Abel, went to live with the people of Nod, and there he found a wife. Where the fuck did those people come from? Maybe they were aliens. We don't know. Doesn't say. So if they are aliens, Enoch, which was Cain's son, would have been partially human and partially Adam's descendant. And therefore, he could have been saved by Jesus. Sorry, Ken. I just proved you completely wrong, using the same kind of pull it out of your ass bullshit that you use all the time.
Yeah.
This isn't that hard to do, but I bet you he'll never take it seriously because it falls outside of his silly theology.
Yeah. I mean, for me, why would God even give a shit?
Oh, God doesn't exist, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. It doesn't exist, so why, this is not important. I think this is more of Ken Ham's anti-science, or at least anti-real science versus his real science that he does. He's got his minions who are doing the work there at, in his bunch. And, maybe he's hoping that if you shut down real science, some of that science money goes to him so he can finish his arc. Ken Ham has no interest in real science. So he's against real science. So why pay for something that isn't real? In his mind, it's probably because science is tearing down the walls of religion. It's pushing back the relevance of God. I mean, eventually, hopefully, through rationality, rational thinking, critical thinking, honest skepticism, the relevance of God will come down to maybe just a little, little blurbs here and there, nothing really important, nothing really to hang our whole religion on. And that scares Ken Ham, because he makes a living off of the gullible religious, as long as they keep sending those donations, paying to go to his creation museum and all that kind of stuff. If people stop believing, he's out of business, and which would be a good thing. I mean, I think he's doing a pretty good job of destroying his business anyhow. And if he keeps opening his mouth like this, it's going to get worse and worse for the guy. And like with most Christians, they're totally clueless. They don't realize. They think it's all atheists' war on Christianity.
Yeah, but there is no war on Christianity. It's you people acting like morons. And they don't get it. And so much of this show, we've been talking about people who just don't understand. And they are utterly unable to question their own beliefs. Everybody else is pointing out how stupid the shit they believe is. And they can't get it through their minuscule little heads that, holy shit, you believe something that's totally indefensible and totally ridiculous. And anybody with 30 seconds and Google could find out that your beliefs are idiotic. But these people, they've wrapped their entire lives, their entire personal view is worthless without these God beliefs. If they don't believe in God, if God suddenly just vanished from reality, or from their perception of reality, they wouldn't know what to do with themselves. They wouldn't know what to think of themselves. They wouldn't know what to make of the world if it wasn't for this imaginary man in the sky. How do we solve this? I mean, really, that's the problem I keep coming back to, is most people are giving up religion. It's happening slow, but most people are doing it. What do we do about the crazy people?
Honestly, let them be crazy. I mean, as long as they keep opening their mouths and crazy shit comes out, we will at least know, okay, that's a crazy person. Stay away from him.
Yeah, but I don't want them to be crazy, because the crazy people mislead people. The crazy people who refuse medical science for their kids kill their kids. They run out and they strap on bomb vests for 72 virgins. They do all kinds of crazy, stupid shit. Look at the fucking religious horror show. And by the way, the next one that goes up next week is my 100th entry. And they're not stopping. And these are all the crazy people who are acting on their beliefs. And because we allow religion to be a socially acceptable form of insanity, this shit just keeps continuing. People keep killing their kids. People keep blowing themselves up. People keep doing all this insane stuff. And a lot of the theists are going, well, it's religious. It's gotta be okay. But it's not. There has to be something that we can do to stop these people, where we can not make this acceptable. But I don't get what that is yet. There's gotta be a way.
There's some pretty drastic, but I'm not gonna advocate them, but it's going to take a concerted effort where everyone get together, and say, enough is enough. If you want to have crazy ideas, fine. Don't push them on us. Stop this insanity. We're not persecuting you people. We're pointing out that you're idiots. You are dangerous. You name it. Your beliefs are harmful. Your actions are harmful. You prey upon the gullible, and where sensible people can get together, and I don't know if we have to do with things legally or if there's got to be, whatever, but just saying enough is enough. If you want to practice your religion, be prepared to suffer the consequences when your actions cause harm to somebody. You're not getting a pass anymore. Take away those passes. If you don't want to send your kid to get medical attention and that kid dies, you're going to be held responsible.
Yeah, but they are being held responsible, but the kid's still dead. And these people, and we see cases of this where they're held responsible, they go to jail, they get out, they have another kid, that kid dies. They go back to jail. And they say they'll do it again and again and again and again. And nobody stops them, because apparently having as many kids as you can possibly pump out of your clown car it's some kind of a religious right. No, it's not. And we have this problem in the atheist community, quote unquote community, because I don't think there is an atheist community, but we have way too many people out there who are accommodationists, who want to make peace with the religious, who say, hey, you believe what you want to believe, and we'll believe what we want to believe, and we won't get in your way as long as you don't get in our way. And that's bullshit. That's complete bullshit. Alright? That's like saying racists. Just saying, hey, you KKK over there, you do what you want to do, we'll do what we want to do. Yeah, we can't stop them from hating black people. Alright? What goes on in your head, I don't care. But the second you go out and lynch a black person, that's a different matter entirely. I don't care what you believe. I don't care what kind of stupid shit you stuff in your brain. But the second you act on that and hurt somebody or harm society or whatever, your beliefs inform your actions. Therefore, I'm blaming your beliefs for the stupid shit you pull, and your beliefs and your actions both need to be prosecuted heavily. And there's way too many people out there who just don't want to make people uncomfortable and don't want to say, hey, you guys are stupid and wrong.
Yeah. See, I would also say if we can go a step further and not just the person doing the stupid thing, you know, 'cause you'll always get the one redneck, but anybody who, if it's a clan thing, the rest of the hierarchy, I mean, if anything, make them pay for damages. Put the redneck in jail, fine, or hit the organizations for financial restitution, whatever you want to do. Same as with the parent who starves a kid or, just not denies, medical attention. Put the parent in jail, put the pastor of that church who says this was, and anybody who's, make them as responsible. Again, pay damages, pay restitution, do whatever. And not only hit the frontline people, because they're the crazies who's bought into it. And they probably wouldn't have bought into it unless some higher person, their pastors, their imams, their grand wizard, whatever the thing is, make them as responsible as the person committing those acts. I think you might get a little bit of a reaction. I mean, it did sort of work with, Aryan nations. I don't know if they're still around or if they remade themselves yet, but it was certainly, when, Richard Butler, he had condoned, the murder of, a radio host. I think it was Richard Butler. Was it Butler or Pierce? Richard Pierce. It's one of those skinhead organizations. And they drug them in as, co-conspirators, that they encouraged the person who killed, was it Philip Berg or Berg? I know it was somewhere in, I think, Colorado. I wish I could remember the story. It pops up on history channels every so often when they talk about the, Klan and, hate groups. Not only did they catch the guy who committed the murder, but they drug in the leader of the group that he belonged to, and I think they did him on a RICO charge. So, and eventually bankrupt the organization. I don't know if it was the Aryan Nation or a similar outfit like that, but basically bankrupt them, and I don't know whatever happened after that. But I think the guy eventually he was one of these old preacher types, when you hear him talk, it is definitely, God's war against the mud people, type of talk.
Yeah.
And actually, I think he passed away not too long ago or a while ago. So, but make not just the frontline perpetrator responsible, but those who have encouraged that behavior, the pastors, whatever, that have say, yeah, you don't want to give your kid medicine, just pray, do this. And make more people responsible, not just the people who committed it in the direct, but those who have encouraged it and those who promote it. And I mean, I would love to see Jenny McCarthy as a co-defendant on vaccine death, or
right,
that type of thing. That would make you think.
I would definitely. Well, except she changed her mind now, but
Yeah, if you believe that.
Yeah. Well, the only problem is, and there are a lot of problems with what we're saying. All right. Number one, that the second that we ever said anything, the religious would scream and cry that they're being persecuted, yada, yada, yada. And they are. All right. I'm not saying they're not, if we were to do that. Number two, that does violate freedom of speech and freedom of religion. But I think that we can get away with that kind of thing because if you go out and you get on the internet someplace and you threaten to kill the president, they're going to come for your ass. Even if you had no plans to kill the president, making that threat is enough for you to go to jail. Why is it not the same to promote something that demonstrably causes death? And there are Christian churches out there. There's some in Oregon and I believe Pennsylvania. I'd have to look up. I know that Oregon there's one where the graveyard is full of dead kids. Clearly, the teachings of this church results in dead kids. Therefore, we need to hold that church legally responsible for the teachings that they are providing and the parents who are actually going by those teachings. Why we can't do that, I don't know, under the same rules that prevent people from making physical threats of violence against others, even if they don't carry out those threats. It's the same damn thing. The results are the same. Why aren't we treating it the same way? Again, it's because religion is, the socially acceptable delusion. And we need to do something about that. I think that's the number one place we need to start.
Yeah, definitely focus on at least maybe make it where you can still protect the freedom, but there's, cause like with any type of freedom or any type of right, there is a responsibility that goes along with it. Even though I could speak out against the government, I can speak out against religion, I do have a responsibility not to slander or libel anyone or anything in that process. That there's a responsibility there. We could be held accountable for what we've said on this show. I'm ready to accept it. We did something. I'm ready to stand up for what I believe. But certainly, if there is a responsibility along with that, with that right, there's a responsibility.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we gotta figure out, you can have all the religious freedom you want, but you can't infringe upon another person's right to exist or to live or to not practice their religion. I think that's probably where the separation has to be.
Well, there's a difference between saying I'm speaking out against the government, for example, and exhorting violence against the government. You can say you hate the government up one side and down the other. You can say you hate Obama's guts up one side and down the other, and I'll be the first one to say I hate Obama's guts up one side and down the other. But I am not telling people, I'm not suggesting that I personally am going to go out and shoot him, and I'm not telling other people that they should go out and shoot him. In fact, I'll be the first one to say nobody should shoot him. That's not the way that the system is supposed to work. You cannot tell people to do things that are going to harm others. That's what these religious people are doing. Unfortunately, we've got a lot of them out there who are up in the pulpits going, the fact that we can't tell people to kill others, the fact that we can't tell people to harm others, or whatever, that's somehow a violation of our religious rights to our free speech. No, it doesn't work that way. You cannot exhort violence toward anybody for any reason, religious, political, social, etc. You can't do that shit. But whereas you can't do that socially, you can't do that politically, a politician could not get away standing up and saying, I think we should go shoot the guys on the other side of the aisle. The religious can do that. And they can stand up and say, I think we should go shoot the Muslims. And the Muslims are going, I think we should go shoot the Christians. There's just a disconnect there, and there's something that we have to do to remove that disconnect, to make it equal for everybody, whether it's political, social, religious, etc. And I don't know how to do that, because we've got this stupid thing in the world where religion gets an out and nobody else does.
Yeah, that's the block. It's perfect. It says it perfect. Somehow we let religion get this pass that in other cases they normally wouldn't. And, something's gotta be figured out on. That's gotta be where we get this figured out, because until that happens,
the problem is they do commit crimes. They commit crimes regularly. And then they sit around and go, well, yeah, it's my religion, so I get to get away with it. Yeah. No, you don't. whatever justification you have for committing that crime, you committed that crime. You need to be punished for that crime. And I don't give a shit what imaginary friend in the sky that you think told you to do it. You don't get away with it. That's the way it's supposed to work. Yeah. That's not the way it works, though.
Yeah. I mean, your guess is as good as mine, this one.
Yeah, well, if anybody has any ideas, let us know. This kind of shit just pisses me off. I mean, this is the kind of stuff I can talk about forever and ever and ever, but we're never going to solve it because the world doesn't want to solve it. The world wants religion to be a special case, and it shouldn't be. It should not be a special case. You should not be able to get away with murder, literally in a lot of cases, just because you believe in the right imaginary friend.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I'd like to think there's probably ways, but I think until something's got to break. I mean, I think something's got to break down on the religious side to say, where someone up and says, and I think it has to come out of the religious side too. I mean, it's not going to be us. We're not convincing them. I mean, we've been doing this show, a year? I mean, there's been other atheist shows have been doing for years. There's been atheists over the centuries calling out the religious for the hypocrisy and the harm that they do to their parishioners, their people. It's gonna have to come out of the religious, and the religious are gonna have to say, what were we thinking? What is wrong with us? And my Bible doesn't say this shit. I don't know where you people are getting this from. The Bible doesn't say this. Enough is enough. Within those religions, within the Catholic Church, the Protestants, the Christian, the Islam, all the religions are going to have to say, enough is enough. I think they have to make a decision that they're being stupid. And that may be the answer, where someone just says, we're doing this all wrong, people.
Yeah, but they'll never do that because in order to do that, it costs them power. It's the same reason why we're in such a political mess and such a legal mess in this country, because the people who are in charge of the political system are the exact same people who benefit from keeping the system exactly the way it is. Yeah. And the same reason that the lawyers, who are the only people that can really change the legal system, they benefit from not changing the legal system. The clergy benefits from keeping shit the way it is. That's just like the Catholic Church. You'd think that by now they'd figure out, holy shit, we got to do something about this pedophile priest thing. It's only been going on for 50 goddamn years that we know about or that it's become a major issue. They're not doing a thing about it. They're paying a lip service, but in order to do that, they would have to lose power and influence, and they're never going to do that.
True, but that's why I mean it's got to come from within. It's probably going to have to be a grassroots type of upwelling, saying, and it has to say stop. That's the only way I can think it could work. It has to be a grassroots within the religion saying enough is enough. We're tired of this bullshit. We're tired of the pedophile priests. We're tired of this stupid creationism and intelligent design arguments and all this kind of stuff. It's gotta stop now. And until that happens, it's gonna be status quo, no change.
Yeah, or until enough people leave the religions where they just don't have the political power that they do today. Right. And everybody else says, we're sick and tired of this shit and we're holding you accountable whether you want us to or not. I think that's more realistic, especially given what's happening now where people are just flooding away from the religions. I'm hoping that the religions do something really, really insanely stupid. I would be entirely fine if the Muslims decided to nuke the Vatican, because that would be the action that would really spark massive outrage against not only Islam, but probably against religion in general. If the Southern Baptists went to war against the Lutherans, that would be a fantastic thing, because it would make society in general say, wait a minute, there's something wrong here.
Yeah. And it has to be clearly, this is a religious thing against another religion. I mean, if it's the United States doing it, it could be the religious, all these crazy fundamentalist assholes who sit down and say, we have to take our government back. Hey, if these churches went out and they held a revolution against the government, same thing. Yeah. It doesn't have to be against a religion. It can just be a religion against somebody else. Yeah. The fundamentalists like attacking the UN building or something. I don't know. But that might work. Yeah.
It's a good idea. Somebody out there, if you're religious, do it, please.
Yeah. Don't need to credit us. Just do it.
Yeah. We can't tell these people to be violent. You didn't get that idea from us.
No.
All right. Well, we should probably close up for the week.
I don't condone it. I understand it.
Yeah. I internally encourage it for reasons that are not good for you as a religion, but, yeah, go ahead. I don't mind.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the train is pulling out of the station. We hope you enjoyed the ride. We'll be back with another show soon, so please stay tuned. While you're waiting, check out our website. Look for us on Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, Google+, and make sure you listen on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and Player FM. Please feel free to comment and let your voice be heard. In fact, you can even be on the show. Instructions are at the website. Until next week, keep laughing at the religious and take care of yourself. We need intelligent people to balance out the insanity. Take care.
Good night.
You've been listening to the Bitchspot Report podcast with your hosts, Cephas and Mike. You can follow us on Twitter respectively at Bitchspot1 or at JDRipper1962. Please visit our website at report.jdragononline.com. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/The Bitchspot Report. We're also on Google+, iTunes, and YouTube. Those links are on our website. We'd love to hear from you. You can reach us via email at report@jdragononline.com. Comments, ideas, and suggestions are always welcome. We'll be back next week with another fun and fact-filled episode. Please tune in again.